Hello, welcome back to Book Nerd TV. This week I'll give you my ranking of the BookTube finalists for nonfiction, starting at number 6 and going all the way to my number 1 pick. Number 6, Under a White Sky by Elizabeth Kolbert. Under a White Sky for me was not a book that resonated. It just was not something that I enjoyed very much at all. Number 5, A Little Devil in America by Hanif Abdurraqib. I found A Little Devil in America actually an interesting book. The author is a poet, and I feel like some of that maybe came through in the book. It's just that in this particular round of books, it happens to land at number 5. So I have nothing negative about the book. If you are interested in reading it, I say that it is well worth your time. Little Devil in America, I recommend that you read. Number 4 is Facing the Mountain by Daniel James Brown. Number 4, oh my gosh, Facing the Mountain is a wonderful read for me, was a wonderful read for me. I learned more about the service in the actual military of the second generation Japanese, or I guess technically the first generation born in the United States, but the Nisei is what they were called. I found this book to be, I was going to say inspiring, and I don't know if inspiring is quite the word that I want to use, but I am inspired by their service, by their desire to fight for a country that did not reciprocate the loyalty and the protection under the law that America touts for itself, touted then and touts now. Are there parallels between the service of the Nisei and African American soldiers in World War II? Absolutely. And that is why I found this book to be compelling. If you enjoy military history, this is one book you cannot fail to read. You must get this book, pick it up. It falls in at number 4, not because it's a bad book. This Facing the Mountain is a very good read, and I highly recommend that you read it. Again, especially if you like military fiction, or if you like nonfiction and history. Read this book. It is well worth your time. My number 3 is Chasing Me to My Grave by Winfred. This book is harrowing in spots because of the things that Mr. Rembert survived. He is someone who he joined the NAACP to stand up against the injustices being perpetrated in his small little Georgia town. I would definitely recommend people read this book because it's not just about sort of the things that he had to survive. It is also about how he, through poor choices and mistakes, finally finds the reason, the way that he can tell his story and express himself, and maybe even grapple with some of the issues that plagued him from when he was even a little boy. In 1940s, 50s Georgia, he did not have an easy road, but he finally, I think, found a way to tell his story, a unique way to tell his story, an artistic way to tell his story, to help him deal with his issues. And of course, he is blessed by the constant love of his wife. And that is a blessing, I think, that is maybe the most centering, anchoring thing in his life, is the constant love of his wife, Peggy. It is also just a moving story. There's just so much to this book. I've rambled on about it enough. Number 3, Chasing Me to My Grave by Winfred Rembert. Definitely a wonderful, amazing read. Highly recommend. Number 2 on my list is Empire of Pain by Radden Keefe. I had wanted to read this book since I think Jess Owens mentioned having read this book and her thoughts about this book, I thought, oh, that's something that I want to read. So imagine my pleasure when this book comes up as one of the books that I need to read for the finals in BookTube Prize. So I was very happy about that. All of those things came together, and wow, he gives you a sense of this family, of some of the individuals within, and actually some of the individuals in this story, you know, you can kind of see how they sort of work their way into positions of power through this drug company. Now, were there some sort of rather clever moves, and then some rather I don't want to say sinister, but there was definitely an agenda that they were following, all in order to make sure that they could sell these drugs. Some of the drugs that they sold were actually beneficial to people, and some, as you know, were not so beneficial, and that they were aware of the issues. If you want a really good, engrossing nonfiction book for November, Empire of Pain will definitely serve in this capacity. Number one is, of course, How the Word is Passed by Clint Smith. This is a wonderful book. It's not a hard read. Some of the subjects might be a little hard, or a little challenging, maybe, for some people. After Medical Apartheid, I'm good. You know, after that book, I think I can take, you know, there's a lot I can read, I'll tell you that. But neither here nor there. Clint Smith is, I think, just a wonderful writer, and his ability to just sort of ask these questions of people, not in sort of like a challenging or hostile way, though, you know, considering the history of this country, challenging, hostile, absolutely understandable. But he is seeking information or knowledge about what has this country communicated to its citizens about the enslavement of Africans in this country. What has been communicated about the conditions of these enslaved people? What is communicated about their being set free? Because there are a lot of different stories in this country about what the Civil War was about. So this book deals with a lot of the stories, that are told or are not told about this very large part of our American history. Smith does such a wonderful job. Again, if you want to read a book for Nonfiction November, I highly suggest that you read How the Word is Passed. You know, if you're going to read a book like White Fragility, or the other book kind of like White Fragility, then reading this book can give you some context about the past, but also about what's happening right now. So How the Word is Passed, excellent read, highly recommend. Well, that's my wrap up for the BookTube Prize for 2022 nonfiction. I really enjoyed this last round, like I said, except for my number 6 book, which I didn't like at all. The other 5 were outstanding. Again, if you've got to find something for your Nonfiction November reading, you can do a great deal worse than picking one of these books, or 2 or 3 of these books, depending on, you know, how fast you read for November. You can do a lot worse than picking any one of these 5. I highly recommend them, and I think that you would enjoy reading them. And you might learn something, expand your horizons, shift your perspective, all that kind of thing. Thank you for joining me. Thank you so much, Book Nerd Veterans. You've been hanging with me for a while, and I deeply appreciate you so much. And for the new subscribers, welcome aboard. Glad to have you. And remember, do good, be good, and I will see you next time.